in the quiet countryside of 12th century England, something bizarre happened. Two children appeared as if from nowhere, a boy and a girl. Their skin was green, their eyes wide with confusion, and their language unknown. They claimed to come from a land where the sun never rose. And this isn't an urban legend or some creepypasta from the internet. This is an event that was recorded 800 years ago. And to this day, no one quite understands exactly what happened. Hey guys, welcome back to the channel. It's Evan here, and I just have an interesting story I wanted to tell you from medieval England, and I only recently stumbled upon this story, and I just thought it was too fascinating not to tell. It reminds me a lot of the Sam the Sandown Clown story involving kids in mysterious circumstances and potential beings from another world, another reality. I thought it's fascinating, so I wanted to share that with you. Remember to like, subscribe, and comment down below what you think, or if you have any other stories, legends, or just anything you want me to look into. Also, in my previous video, I announced that I had published a book called The Mortal Towers, and I just want to let you know that its sequel is ready to go and published and ready for purchase. It is called The Mortal Towers Book 2, The Kingdom of Mountains. I really hope you guys enjoy it. If you're really into fantasy like Lord of the Rings, or even like games like Elder Scrolls, Fable, or even sci-fi fantasy like Star Wars, be sure to hit it up. I'm sure it'll scratch that itch for a fantasy story. So anyway, let us begin. In the mid-1100s, during the reign of King Stephen or maybe King Henry, depending on the source, there's a tiny village in Suffolk, England. The village is named Woolpit, named after the pits that they dug around their village to trap wolves. And then the villagers one day came out to see something strange near those pits. They see a young boy and young girl. Bizarrely, both of them have strange clothes that no one had seen before. They spoke an unknown language that no one could understand. And most bizarrely, had a deep green skin color. The two were scared and confused, but the villagers wanted to help them out. So they tried bringing them food, but they wouldn't eat anything that they brought them. That is, until they brought them raw fava beans. Green beans that would normally be cooked, but they refused to eat them cooked, only raw. Which, I want to say that's really bizarre. It's like they're kids, they're probably hungry, they're scared. You'd want to offer them something to help, but they don't take it. Except for beans. I mean, like, who just wants raw beans? I guess this is England, and they do like their beans there, but anyway, I just thought that was an interesting detail that they included in the stories. The villagers took them in, and they tried to help take care of the children. The girl thrived. She learned English, and she grew, but the boy didn't. He slowly started to wither away and eventually passed. But his sister, after learning English, made things even more mysterious by telling them where they came from. According to her story, she said her and her brother came from a place called St. Martin's Land, and they described that land being a realm of twilight, where a place between light and dark, where the sun never truly rose. And bizarrely, everything was also slightly green. The sky had a slight green hue to it, and there was a mist that was slightly green as well. I want to take a step back and try to visualize this. When I first read about this story, my mind immediately went to the video game Legend of Zelda Twilight Princess and the Twilight Realm that's in that game. Just kind of the green motifs and the twilight being neither light or dark. I don't know. I'll put some pictures up just to show you kind of how I'm imagining it, but that is just strangely bizarre to me that they said they came from a place like that. She said that her and her brother were tending to their father's cattle when they heard something in the distance. They described the sound of bells ringing, luring them off until they ran into a cave of some kind. Now, she said she wasn't sure if it was a cave or some sort of cavern, but it was unique. She hadn't seen anything like it at the time. But they followed the sound into the cave, and eventually it came out in Woolpit, a new world, bright light, different sky, and bizarre people to them. Now, is this some sort of metaphor she was making, a hallucination, half-remembered trauma, or something else far stranger? Now, I want to dive into some theories about this story, about what may have happened, some ideas that people have had. A lot of people point to folklore of the area, that the children were tied to the fairies, fae, in European folklore. That they came from some sort of other world and were children of fae. Another theory was that they are aliens of some sort, that they somehow were transported through time and space into Earth. The St. Martin's Land, a distant planet, the cave some sort of wormhole, and their language is just something that humans never came up with. Another theory is one that I actually really enjoy. I don't believe it, but I'll probably make a more in-depth video on it later. The hollow Earth. There's this whole theory that the Earth is hollow, and to kind of sum up kind of the idea that I was getting is that inside the Earth there's the outer crust, right? The outer crust makes the outside of the Earth, and then beneath that there are, depending on who you ask, concentric spheres that get smaller as you go into the Earth that are populated with different groups of people, or that when you go inside the Earth, you're walking essentially on the other side of the ground. And that gravity doesn't pull you toward the center of the Earth, it pulls you to the center of the crust. So these kids were on the other side of this crust, and they heard this bell, and they went through the cave, and the cave took them through the crust and onto the surface. That's a whole other can of worms. I'll probably do a video on those later, because I think the whole hollow Earth theory is super fascinating. Way more fascinating than flat Earth. And then a more grounded, realistic theory that is likely the most correct is that the kids were Flemish refugees. Their odd clothes, because they came from a faraway land and they didn't speak English, they spoke a dialect that none of the villagers understood. And as for their green skin, it can be explained as a type of anemia from malnutrition called chlorosis, otherwise known as the green sickness. It particularly affected young women and gave them kind of a pale greenish complexion. This gave them fatigue and some other issues. But I feel like that doesn't quite explain the whole thing behind them only wanting to eat raw fava beans, and also the whole St. Martin's Land. That still remains kind of a mystery with that more grounded theory. Later on, the girl would lose her green skin. It faded to a more normal color, and she eventually grew up, left the village, and married a man from a nearby town called King's Lynn. and she lived apparently as just a normal person. And the most fascinating part about this is that this isn't just some random folklore or story that is passed down. This isn't like a ghost story or a monster sighting or something. It was written down by monks and historians as an actual event that happened. 2 green children, one dies, one adapts, and she has a story that no one can quite explain. If it's folklore, it's incredibly detailed. And if it's real, then what else might be going on? Is there a place inside the earth where kids are green, where the light never really shines? And what was the bell that drew them forward? I have no idea. I have no answers. I lean toward the Flemish refugees just because it seems the most logical, but it's still bizarre to think about. Maybe that there is something out there. Anyway, what do you guys think? Let me know down in the comments below. And again, please check out my book. I'd love your support. I would love to hear your feedback on Amazon and reviews and whatnot. And as always, until next time, stay spooky, friends.